Hello everyone and welcome to Gaming Video Creations. In this episode we're going to be showing you how you can record your screen and audio from Among Us. And this is going to be done on PC. So let's get started. So the first thing you need to do is go to obsprojects.com. obsproject.com, sorry that's not projects, it's obsproject.com, and you're going to download OBS Studio. This is a free software, it's very powerful, and most people that you find on YouTube or on Twitch are probably using OBS to record their screen. So once you've installed OBS, there's a few things that we need to get out of the way here. So first off, we're going to go into our settings and work our way through our settings and get those set up properly. And then we're going to add some things on here in sources in order to get our video showing up behind us here. So there we go, we have our settings. Let's go to General tab. There's not a lot you can do in General tab. There are some things here, but for the most part you don't need to worry about them. There's this here, we'll change it to a dark theme, which is now the default theme, which really does look the best. Let's go to stream. So if you are setting up a stream account, this is going to be where you start. You're going to have to connect your Twitch or your YouTube stream account here. I'm not going to go into streaming right now, but this will help you in order to get set up for streaming. It's just I'm not going to go into all the details about it. So let's go to Output tab. So this right now is on simple output mode. We're going to change that right away. We're going to go to Advanced. And then here we are with our streaming tab. Make sure this is on number 1. And encoder, I'm not going to go into the rest of the setup right now. I just reinstalled OBS completely, so none of this is my setup. This is all factory default settings. Alright, so we go over to here to recording, and there's a few things we're going to change. For one, you want to make sure your recording path is set up the way you want. For me, I have it on my E drive, but you may have to have it on a different drive, and you want it on a very large drive if you can. So over here on Browse, you can change that. Now next we're going to go to our recording format. This is very important, especially if we're going to be recording multiple audio tracks, which is the way that I'm going to set this up for you. So right now we have MKV, which is a multiple audio track format, and MP4. These are the two formats that I would use if I were you. The big advantage to MKV is that if your system does crash, you can still go back and use that video. But if it crashes with MP4, you're kind of out of luck in this one. So it depends what you want. If you want some security, then go MKV. If you don't suspect your system is going to crash and you're not really concerned if it does crash, then you can go MP4. The benefit to MP4 is that you don't have to change this format in order to use it in your editing software, whereas MKV you would. For me, I just stick with MP4. I uncheck audio track 1 and I'm going to check off audio track 2 and 3. So the reason I'm doing this is because right now I have my audio track on number 1 for streaming, number 2 and 3 for recording. See, I'm kind of setting you up for streaming as well, but we're not going to go into all the finer details. Now here's encoder. We're going to change this. For me, I'm going to go NVIDIA H264 and the new one here. This is, if you have an NVIDIA graphics card, then this is the one you're going to want to use. If you don't, there may be another option for an AMD graphics card, or you're going to have to go with 264. This is going to be a little more CPU intensive. This one here is working off the graphics card. So this is what I'm going to use for mine. I'm not going to worry about rescaling. I'm going to be changing this in a second because that's not my native resolution. But for anyone that's running in 1080p, this would be your native resolution. But we'll get to that in a second here. So down here we have a few options. You can go to constant bitrate or variable bitrate. Alright, so this next little part here, I'm going to show you something with bitrate. So this is actually from Google's support for YouTube. And as you can see, it lists off quite a few different bit rates here, depending on what setup you have going on. So this is for different resolutions down here, and you have different frame rates. So if you're running closer to 60 frames per second, which is probably one of the more common ones for gaming, then you're going to have to use this line here for your bit rate. What I would do is probably boost this up though. I'm not going to use this exact bit rate. I'm going to boost mine up quite a bit. I'd probably double this because what I want to do is get the most amount of data possible for YouTube. But it's kind of a trade-off because if you boost it too high, your system won't be able to keep up, especially if you're running a very intense game. Now, Among Us is not the most intense game, so you're probably going to be able to go pretty high if you want, but it also doesn't have a whole lot happening, so which means that you can go lower. So you could probably go with the recommended here. For me, it's 24 megabits per second if I was running 60, and 16 megabits per second if I was running on 30. So I'm probably actually going to go with 50 because I like to have my bitrate pretty high. And a lot of times I'm playing more intense games that are not just Among Us, so I'm going to have it very high. Coming down here, I'm going to go with max quality on mine. You can, if you're having issues with performance, then definitely bring this down to performance or even max performance, but for myself, I'm going to have its max quality. Next, down here is profile. Put this one on high, and the rest of the stuff we're not going to worry about right now. So let's go up here to audio tab. Alright, so in this tab here, the first one we're going to leave is 160. And the reason we're going to leave that one is if you do decide to stream to Twitch, 160 is going to be your max. From what I understand, that's your max bitrate that you can use. And the second one though, I'm going to boost that up to 320. And also the third one. Beyond that, I'm not going to worry about track 4, track 5, and track 6 because I'm not going to use those right now. So let's apply that. And over here, we're not going to worry about this. We're going to continue on down the list. So we're going to audio. So the way I'm going to set this up, so I'm not going to have a default. I'm going to disable the default. So there we have all of them disabled now. And down here you can actually set up some hotkeys in order to have a push to mute button or a push to talk button. So let's go on to the next one here, which is in video. So we have our base resolution. So for me, I am going to boost this up to, so I can put this up to 2560 by 1440, which is the base resolution for the monitor I'm on right now. So let's just do that for mine. If you are running 1080p, you could put this down at 1920 by 1080, and that's fine. So let's just adjust this. Output, I'm going to put the same as my base resolution. So what I could do is I could downscale it to 1080p, but I'm not going to do that. So you could do the same. You could have 1080p and 1080p, or if you're running 4K, you could have 4K up here and 4K down here. And down here is where our frame rate comes in. If you're playing something that's fast moving, you may want to be at 30 frames or 60 frames per second. But if you're playing something like Among Us, you can probably get away with 30 or even lower, maybe even closer to 25. 30 and 60 are probably the two common ones that you could use. Keep in mind though that this does play with your bit rate. So if you have a very low bit rate, you're going to want to stay on the lower end for your frame rate. If you have a very high bit rate, then of course you can go up. So this works very closely with your bit rate. So let's set it at 30 for now and hit apply. Down here to hotkeys, I'm not going to set any hotkeys on this, but you can have it so it starts streaming or starts recording with a hotkey. So I have done this in the past when I've been doing different kind of videos where it's very specific to a timing. I have to time it perfectly, so you can have it set up that way. So let's go into advanced here. So in advanced, we're not going to change anything. So just hit OK and let's get out of that. So now we got to set it up so we can see this background here. I want to be able to display this background on my screen in here. Of course, we don't have that set up right now. So let's go set that up. So the first thing we're going to do is come in here. We have a scene now, so you could create multiple scenes if you want. We're going to leave it because we're making this simple. Alright, so we're going to add a source here. So come to this plus sign, and we're going to go up to where it says game capture. There's a few different ways we could do this. We could do game capture or display capture. In this one, let's try game capture. Display would be your whole screen, whereas game capture is going to capture the game behind my screen. So it won't capture the OBS, so we're not going to get that duplicating effect on the screen here. I'll show you the difference here in a second. So game capture. And let's go create new. And in this case, you could say capture any full screen application, but I have multiple screens and I suspect that's causing a few issues here. So we're going to capture a specific window, and then we're going to select a window. So here's Among Us, and now you can see we have our window and it's displayed behind us. So we're going to say OK. You can actually change whether you want to capture your cursor or not. I'm going to leave that on because I use my cursor when I'm playing Among Us. Now I'm going to show you a difference here with display capture. If I come up here to display capture, I can set my display capture here, and we can pick our display. And let's pick this one here. But as you can see right now, I'm capturing OBS as well. So I'm capturing everything in that display. Whereas if I take that one off, take this one off, now I'm just capturing the gameplay. which is kind of a nice feature. Alright, so let's erase this display capture. And there we go. So now let's set up some audio, because right now, if we record this, it'll work, but it's only going to record what you can visually see. So we're going to add some audio now. So come down to the plus button again, and we're going to come up here to audio output capture. So right up here, audio output capture, click on that. And we're going to go over here to, we're going to call this one desktop, just to keep things simple, and we'll say OK. Now we're going to come up here to device. We're going to click down on this, and you're going to have, you might not have as many choices as I do, or maybe you do, but I'm going to go to speakers to USB out audio codec. So that is what my output is set for on my game here. So that's what you're going to want to select, is whatever output you're using for your game. It may be speakers, it could be anything. Let's say okay to that. So as you can see now, we have audio coming out. So our game is now playing in here. I probably turned it down in post, so it's not driving you crazy right now, but I do have audio coming out. So of course we need one more thing. We need a mic. We need to add our mic in. So let's go here to this plus sign, and we're going to add in an audio input capture. Same thing here. We're going to call this one mic 1. So if you have multiple mics, you could actually add them in here, but we're going to add in mic 1. Alright, so click OK. And we're going to come up here to select our microphone. So in my case, it's again, the microphone is the 2 USB, and this is because I have a mixer that I'm using. The mixer is not what I'm using to adjust my volumes. It's just the way that I have inputted my mic into my system because of my mic connection. So let's hit OK on this one. So now we have our mic. As you can see, as I speak, my mic is affecting this audio volume here. So now we have this, it's on the high end. As you can see, it's coming into the red here. We could just tweak this and adjust this down if we want. And the same thing, game volume. If you don't want to be having your game so loud that no one can hear you, then just adjust it down here. This will be very important for streaming, because what happens with streaming is everything goes into one audio track versus 2. And the way I'm setting up here though, we're gonna be able to adjust our audio later in post. So let's get this set up here. The final step is we right click in the audio mixer area, and you come down here to advanced audio properties. You can also click on this cog and then down to advanced audio properties. Same place. And what we're going to do is go over here to the tracks. See, we have our 2 different inputs now, our desktop and our mic. We want to make sure that these are not set up on every single track, because we're recording on, if you remember right, we record on track 1 for streaming, track 2 and track 3 for recording. So these 2 are recording, this one is streaming. So what we want to do is we want to separate track 2 and 3. So we're going to uncheck mic, and we're going to come to track 3 and uncheck desktop. So now what's happening is both tracks are going for a streaming software, so that if we're streaming on Twitch, we're getting both our desktop and our microphone at the same time. They're mixing together into our Twitch stream. With our recording, we're only getting desktop on one track, and we're only getting microphone on one track. So once you're done that, close that out, and now you have a working OBS settings. You can now hit record, or if you set up the rest of the streaming stuff, you could hit stream and your audio will be mixed. But right now, if you hit record, your audio will go into separate tracks. You can now tweak how loud your game is and how loud your speaking is to make sure that it's a proper sound, and it's going to really make a big difference for recording. This is the best way to record when you're recording a game like Among Us. Hope you guys enjoyed. I will see you guys in the next video. Hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe. There's going to be more content like this coming your way, and I will see you in the next video.